with the achievement, there is also going to be certain drawbacks of the Swarajists. Now, when we talk on the drawbacks, what are the drawbacks that are going to be there? The first one is that they lacked a policy to coordinate militancy inside legislatures with mass struggle outside. Means whatever was happening at the outside of the legislature's level, that means in the common masses, they lack to put it in sync with the outside masses. That means whatever were the issues, they did not majorly bring up those issues in legislatures, but what they raised is generally political issues. So that is why they were not in sync. The second aspect here, what do we understand is that here the militancy aspect, do not correlate the militancy with the violent aspect. Militancy here, what does it mean is that being so being so rude with the Britishers within the legislative assembly. That means, for example, in today's time, the politicians generally do a walkout from the parliament. So like that only, they also did, they were very much brutal against the Britishers. So that aspect is mentioned as militancy here. Moreover, they could not resist the perks and the privileges of power and office. So once they started looking at the powers that you get when you preside on the seat, these people, they could not resist that particular privileges that is going to be there, the powers that is going to be there. So then because of that, what happened is that the many of the Indian people who were there in the councils, they decided on having the seats, they decided on holding on to their seats. That is going to be one major issue that was there. Then the effectiveness, it is going to reduce. Why? Because what did I tell you, the Swarajists, they were not only belonging to INC, but they belong to diverse political parties. However, the majority was of INC, but there was diversity. Now they were Indians from diverse political parties who were sitting in the councils. Because of that, they did not have a homogeneous ideology. They had diverse viewpoints, diverse perspectives on certain bills that led to disagreements. And because of those disagreements, there were certain issues that are going to be raised at that point of time. So that is the reason what is going to happen is that these particular people, they are not going to be that successful, and not majority of the bills are going to be stopped from passing. So that is there. Moreover, an obstructionist strategy, it has its own limitations. For example, just imagine if in today's time the opposition only does walkout, they are not doing discussions, but in all sessions they are doing just walkout. So till when are they going to do the walkout? The walkout has its own limitations, right? Anyhow, the government will create laws like that. Also here, the Swarajists, they had certain limitations in an obstructionist strategy. Moreover, these Swarajists, they only relied on newspapers to communicate with the public. But here, this was the issue. Did the newspapers reach the cornermost areas of India? No. The people, they did not have access to newspapers. Newspapers were only there in the cities and towns. So only the people of cities and towns were aware about the work of the Swarajists, not the people in the villages. They were unaware of that. So that is why there was a limitation into the number of people they catered to, the number of people who were aware on their things. Moreover, what happened is that the Swarajists, they were also now divided. How come they were divided? Because see, I told you, Swarajists, they belong to a heterogeneous mindset, heterogeneous parties. And there was one leader who was powerful enough to unite these Swarajists irrespective of diversity, and that was C.R. Das, Chandrakant Raghunath Das. However, what is going to happen is that C.R. Das, he is going to be dying in the year of 1925. And because of that, what happens is, whenever you see a leader passing away, there are going to be various people in the party who want to, capture the power, right? So similarly, here also what happens is, after the death of C.R. Das, there were various people who wanted to capture power. And because of that, a lot of enmity arose within the Swarajists. And they got divided in the later on time period into two sections. One is going to be the responsivist, another is going to be the non-responsivist. When we talk about the responsivist and when we talk about the non-responsivist, what do we understand here? The responsivists, they were the people who projected on the idea of safeguarding their seats, safeguarding the Hindu interest, safeguarding, the elemental interest. And the leaders here, they are Lala Lajpat Rai, Madan Mohan Malaviya. So they advocated on cooperation with the government and holding of office. It was to protect the Hindu interest. Whereas the anti-Hindus were labeled as non-responsivist, and that was Motilal Nehru. They labeled him as non-responsivist. So that was one another issue that was there. So like that, obviously, this division reduced the this division reduced the work that the Swarajists could do. So the Swarajists, they were doing their work, and there were certain positives and negatives that the Swarajists are going to witness. Now, simultaneously and similarly, even the no changes, they are going to be witnessing certain amount of, means even the no changes, they had certain amount of features, and apart from that, they also had the positives as well as negatives. Now, when we talk on the features of the Swarajists, what do we see? They wanted to do the constructive work, and we have already spoken about what is constructive work: spinning khadi, temperance, Hindu-Muslim unity, removal of untouchability, women empowerment, etc. And the major leaders who are going to talk on this particular constructive work, it is going to be Vallabhbhai Patel, the Rajendra Prasad. What did the reasons that they were against the council entry is because if the Swarajists from 100, let's assume that if there were 100 people in the INC, from 100, if 30 are telling that we will be Swarajist and if 70 are telling that we will be no changers, so even if 30 wouldn't be Swarajists, so even they would be working for the no changes, that is constructive program. But now 30 got reduced from constructive program. So automatically the constructive work which could have been done at a much rapid level at 100 with 100 people is now doing with a less pace. Okay, it is now doing with a less pace because some went to other ideology. So that is why the Swarajes, they did not want the council entry because it could lead to neglecting work. It could neglect the constructive work. It would also lead to loss of revolutionary zeal, and this is what I had explained on the Government of India Act 1919. The PM means we did not accept it, but yet if the Swarajists were participating in the elections that was to be conducted by GOI Act 1919, what message would it give to the citizens of the country? So that is going to be there. Moreover, constructive work, if it was done with a full passion, then it would prepare everyone for the next civil disobedience, and we would be able to fulfilling that particular aims and agenda. So like the Swarajes, even these particular people, they had their own segment of the pros and cons. Now when we talk on the pros and cons, what is going to be the pros and cons at that point of time? The pros and cons, it is going to be that the pros, when we talk about the pros, that means the positives here. Because of the no changes activity, what happened is that a lot of ashrams, they are going to come up, which is going to popularize the charkha and khadi. That means the khadi clothes, they were popularized at that point of time. Moreover, national schools, that means the Swadeshi schools and colleges, they had come up, and because of that the British education, it was reducing. The British schools and colleges, they were reducing, and nationalistic traditional education was also flourishing. However, traditional education do not mean to this that non-scientific education. What I'm talking here is that it is scientific as well as non-scientific education was generally provided at that point of time. Scientific as well as non-scientific education, it was provided at that point of time. Okay, now when we talk here, what can we understand in the later on phase is that the next positive it is going to be is that these people, they are also going to work on the Hindu Muslim unity. These people, they also worked on the Hindu Muslim unity. And when we talk on the Hindu Muslim unity, what can we understand here? What can we understand here is that in the Hindu Muslim unity, because now there will not be that much of communal tensions, Now there will not be that much of the Britishers, whatever they had aimed of the Hindu Muslim divide, that will not be there. Communal sensitivity will not be there. There will be unity, and because of that nationalism would grow. Moreover, apart from Hindu Muslim unity, they also worked on removing untouchability. That was a major dividing factor in the society. They also focused on boycott of foreign cloth and liquor, and all of these activities that were done by them, it served as a backbone for the civil disobedience movement, which was to be started in the year of 1930. However, along with the positives, there were certain negatives also that is going to be there with the people, with the no changes. Now, what are those negatives when we talk on that? The first one is that when we talk, the education that they were providing, the education that was started, those education, it was only accessible to some of the sections, that is middle and upper middle classes. The reason, because the education that was set up, that particular education, it was generally charged. Money was charged, and India at that point of time, the people were poor and people couldn't afford to give money, and that is why there was non accessibility of education at that point of time. That was one issue. Yes, these people, they promoted the khadi and the charkha, but at that point of time, when we compare the khadi clothing in comparison to the textile cotton clothing, khadi, it was very much costly, and even today when you see, khadi is very much costly. That was another issue. Moreover, these people, the Swarajists, they did not give that much of emphasis on the, the common and the general population, the general problems that were there. For example, they did not give emphasis on the grievances of the landless and the agricultural laborers. So that was one major hurdle, and it was this section that was the enormous in India. So that is why not that much of support could be given to the Swarajists. Sorry, the no changes. So like that, what happened is that the Swarajists and the no changers, they carried out their activities. Okay, they are going to carry out their activities. So that is going to be there. So from the time period of, I'll just write it here, I'll just give you a brief understanding now. From the time period of 1922, the two sections, that is the Swarajists and the no changers, they are going to carry out their activity. In the year of 1923, the Swarajists, they are going to fight the elections, and the no changers, they are going to carry out their constructive work. And from 1923 till 1927, these Swarajists and no changers, here what do we see is that there are certain pros and cons. Here also we are going to see there are certain pros and cons. So the Swarajists and no changes, they are going to continue till the time period of 1927, and in between we are going to see that there are a lot of divisions between the Swarajists and the no changes. However, in 1927 there is one particular commission that is going to be created, and that was known as the Simon Commission. And because of this commission which was created, whatever political divisions that was created here, that is between the responsivists, non-responsivists, the Swarajists, the no changers, whatever political divisions were created here, all of those political divisions, they just went aside. And now, in reaction to the Simon Commission, there was unity in the political arena. There was unity in the political arena. So this is what we can see at this point of time, that whatever divisions from 1922 till 1927 are going to be there, whatever issues are going to be there, they are going to just fade away in reaction to the Simon Commission, which we shall be seeing in the next particular session, in the association with the Simon Commission. All right. So, my dear friends, this is what we shall be keeping for this session, and I shall see you up in the next particular session, and that will be all. Thank you everybody for watching me and for watching Civil 360. Take care, study well, and whatever I am telling, just keep a track of it. Okay, create a mindset, build a mindset that will help you clear the examinations. So, thank you, take care everybody, and Jai Hind.